Good evening, everyone. We last left our heroes on page 145. Good news, boss, Greg said with a grin, jogging toward Kerry and Nikki as soon as they entered the building with their CSI kits. I finished the car, and you'll never guess what I found. Why don't you tell us, Mr. Banning? One of our CSI kits protected a single fingerprint sample, and it was from the driver's side. How? Kerry asked, completely baffled. The plastic from the CSI kit melted onto the back of the fingerprint sample, but we can still read it, and the plastic was caught in a low-impact area of the wreckage. I yanked it out. It's in the lab being processed now. The computer's running a search. This is excellent, Kerry said with a smile. We finished looking over Lorenz's residence. The police are closing up over there. Where's Justin? He's still searching for Cassidy Webster. Kerry nodded. All right. Sarah's with the boys? They're in the lounge. How are you doing? Nikki asked him. I'm fine, Greg said with a smile. I jogged over here, didn't I? Nikki, I'm going to need your help processing this. Good work, Greg. Is there any news on the security company and why the panic button didn't alert the police? He gave a sideways frown. Sort of. They said they're having a computer malfunction and will be back online within 48 hours. They also said they sent you a text message, but I'm guessing that isn't true. Kerry stared at him. If the alarm system is down and never went off, then why did the intruder shoot the panel? He shook his head, puzzled. It must have been going off but not broadcasting a signal. Shooting the panel killed the siren, giving the illusion that it was off. This means that the intruders didn't know that the alarm system was down, or they would have killed the siren along with hacking into the larger system. Keep working on your current tasks, but look into the source of that hacking. It could point to the leadership behind the intruders. They were likely pawns. Greg nodded and jogged back to the fingerprint lab. Let's start from the trace lab, Kerry said to Nikki, and Nikki nodded and followed her. After Kerry got the ball rolling on the processing of the shirt, she left Nikki to work and decided to see how Aiden and Patrick were doing. On her way, she peeked into Justin's computer lab. How are you doing in here? Found anything? Computer's still searching. Hard person to find, apparently. Kerry nodded. All right, keep looking. Got anything on why backup was so late? They had a system malfunction. They couldn't alert backup until later on. And they couldn't alert you either. I think it was unrelated to this. Kerry said, holding her chin in her hand. That's curious. And horrible timing. Let's not let go of this one. We'll follow up later on, but we should really look into that. There are too many system malfunctions lately for it to be a coincidence. Social services, my security alarm, and now this. I agree, Justin said. Did you call the pilots' families? Justin nodded solemnly. I gave them my condolences. They came to the station right away. Both families live in the area. They didn't have bodies to identify, but it's still procedure that they come. Kerry nodded. Are they still here? They both left a few minutes ago. All right, she said. Still nothing on this search. Justin shook his head. Seems weird. It's been at this for 20 minutes. Shut it down, restart, try again. That usually fixes the problem. Have IT look at it if it doesn't. That'll probably fix it, Justin said. Justin, do you think you can do me a favor? Kerry asked. Sure, anything, he said. Kerry normally wouldn't ask, but this was anything but a normal time. Do you think you could have Kara come get the kids now and take them to your place? They'll end up sleeping in the lounge until I leave, if not, and I want this to seem as normal as possible. Kara would be glad to, Justin said. He looked at his watch. She's back from work by now. She probably even made dinner. It'll take her about 10 minutes to get here. Do you want to talk to her about their bedtime routines and all that? I'll talk to her when she gets here. Just call her as soon as you can. Justin nodded. Of course. I'm going to go relieve Sarah, Kerry said with a smile. It's been almost 4 hours that she's been watching them. I hope she's still breathing. Justin chuckled, amused that Kerry could have a sense of humor at a time like this. Kerry left and walked directly to the lounge. When she entered, Aiden and Patrick were both sitting in front of Lenny the Lionfish on TV. Quigley had long since fallen asleep, and lay upside down on the floor, with paws up in the air. Sarah sat on a chair not far from Aiden and Patrick, working on a report. Well, this group is quiet, Kerry said with a smile as she entered. She attempted, again, to act as though nothing was wrong. Sarah came over to her and smiled. They've been good, she said. Great, Kerry beamed at her two boys. Patrick, Aiden, time to go. Aiden and Patrick turned around, and Patrick turned off the television. They both ran toward her. Aiden hugged her and asked, Did you solve the important case? Kerry gave him a small smile. Not yet, honey, but I'm working on it very, very hard. and I'm going to need to keep working on it tonight, so you guys are going to go stay at Justin's house, alright? Have a sleepover with Kara?" Aiden beamed, but Patrick was not amused. He just nodded indifferently, attempting to hide his own worry. "What about our PJs?" Patrick asked. Kerry hadn't even thought about that. "Well, I'll have to swing by the house and pick up a few things for you," she decided. "How'd you get that scrape on your cheek?" Patrick inquired. "And why are your clothes all dirty?" Aiden asked. "It's a long story," Kerry said, reaching up unconsciously to touch the result of diving into the ground. "But you don't need to worry. It's fine," she assured them. "Will Daddy be back tomorrow?" Aiden asked a bit cautiously. "I hope so, honey," Kerry said softly, putting her hand on his head. "I'm sure he'll be home by tomorrow night." One way or the other, she thought. Hans had said 2 days. 48 hours from 13:30 this afternoon. She planned to go down to the morgue and talk to Hans again about that deadline. It seemed so short, and yet 13:30 seemed like it was last year for her. "When's Kara coming?" Patrick asked. "Soon. Sarah's going to take off now," Kerry said. "I'll stay with you until Kara comes." "I can stay," Sarah said. "You need to take off and get some rest. Help Greg with Amber and Kyle if you'd like something to do. He might need the help tonight." Sarah nodded reluctantly. She wanted to be here, helping Kerry find Connor. "Before you leave, I need to talk to you. I'll be right back," she said to her boys, and she walked outside the lounge with Sarah. "Greg's been injured. I wasn't sure if you knew." "No, I didn't. What happened?" "Thank you for not turning on the news," Kerry said gratefully, knowing that if she had turned it on, she would have known. But Patrick and Aiden would have also heard that their dad was missing. "A unit of officers, Greg and I, were in an explosion. We're all okay, but it killed 2 helicopter pilots. They were ready to airlift the getaway car that Connor's captors used. That's when the bomb detonated. Greg was closest." "How badly was he hurt?" Sarah asked, concerned. "He had some burns and some metal and glass impacted him from the explosion, but he didn't have to go to the hospital. The medic at the site had sterile equipment with him. He's all patched up, but he might need some help with Kyle and Amber tonight. He's working on the remnants of the explosion right now. He found our fingerprint paper, and he's analyzing that. I'd assume that Kyle and Amber are getting hungry. Greg's probably forgotten." "I'll get them a pizza or something," Sarah said with a smile. "Thanks, Sarah. We've got a few leads, but Greg and Nikki will tell you when you catch up with them. I'd like to get back with them." She indicated her children. "Of course. Kerry, they know something's up, just to warn you." "I figured as much. I can't tell them, but I'll figure something out." "Were they really as good as you said they were? No fighting?" "Nothing out of the ordinary for boys their age. They were fine." The last thing Kerry needed to worry about right now was her children's behavior. Kerry smiled and said, "Thanks again, Sarah." Sarah smiled kindly as she walked away to find Greg. Kerry entered the lounge and looked at Quigley. "Oh crap, I forgot to tell Justin about Quigley," she said in exasperation, and took out her phone. She wasn't willing to leave the boys alone, even guarded. She said, "Justin," into the phone, and waited. Justin picked up after only one ring. "Kerry?" "Hey, I'm sorry, I forgot to tell you that Quigley's with us." "I know. I told Kara." It was kind of hard to miss a hyperactive beagle running around their lounge. But Kerry was tired and probably didn't realize that. "Is it okay with her?" "She said she'd be here in a few minutes and she'd make sure Quigley had food. Is Benny's food okay for him?" "It should be fine. Quigley will eat anything." Benny, Justin's 1-year-old golden retriever, had enjoyed playing with Quigley in the past. Justin and Kara had purchased the golden retriever about the same time that Kerry and Connor had rescued the 2-month-old Quigley from the pound. "Okay, do you want me to swing by your house and pick up a few things for the boys?" "I'll take care of it," Kerry told him. "All right, talk to you later." Kerry snapped the phone closed and put it back on her belt. She found that Patrick was staring at her. Aiden was kneeling by Quigley, watching as he slept. Kerry looked at Aiden, and then back at Patrick. "Is your homework done?" "We finished it a long time ago," Patrick told her. "Sorry I was gone so long, honey. This is really a busy time right now." "I know," Patrick said. There was a brief silence during which Kerry reflected that it had never been hard to talk to her sons before. Now she found herself lost for words. Of course, Connor was always better with words than she was. "Is Kara going to take us to school tomorrow?" Patrick asked. Kerry frowned. She didn't want to tell them that until the last minute so that they could soak up the day off for all it was worth without much time to reflect on why they weren't going. "I thought you could stay home tomorrow from school. Kara has to go to work, but she'll probably bring you to the station as soon as she leaves. Aiden looked up with a look of amazement. I thought we couldn't come to work with you. Can we go now? We aren't going to school, so we won't miss school so we can go to work. Patrick frowned at his brother. He realized this was not the time to ask. I'm sorry, buddy. Not tomorrow. Though it'll be much too busy with this case to show you around. But you know what? When this case is over, I think I can arrange for you two to ride in the back of the car with me. How's that? Can we go see crime scenes? Aiden asked. We'll see, Kerry replied noncommittally. It probably wouldn't happen. They could potentially arrange a staged crime scene with some hairs or fibers for the children to collect just for fun, but she did not have the time to arrange such a thing at the moment, even though they would deserve it after this case was over. So what have you two been doing with Sarah? She asked them, changing the subject. We did our homework, and we played cards and watched TV, and we played video games too. Good for you. Did you read any of your novels? She asked them. Connor was always encouraging them to read more and more. Kerry almost visibly shook her head to rid herself of the thought. Everything lately was making her think of Connor, but she almost didn't want to stop thinking about him. I read 20 pages, Aiden said. Then Patrick got mean and wouldn't let me play the fighter game. It's called Heroes of the Sky, and you kept crashing your plane into stuff. We had to restart every 5 seconds, Patrick complained. Nuh-uh, Aiden argued. All right, Kerry interrupted quickly, not wanting this to escalate into anything, especially not when Kara was on her way. How's Moby doing, Aiden? Moby Dick is doing fine. Captain Ahab didn't catch him. He keeps trying, and people fell off the boat because he wouldn't stop. And they saw this other boat, and it needed help, but Captain Ahab wouldn't stop and help it because he wanted to catch Moby Dick, and all those people still needed help. Kerry smiled. Captain Ahab is making mistakes. Uh-huh, Aiden agreed. I kind of want him to catch Moby Dick, though. I mean, he hurt Captain Ahab really bad, and even if he didn't mean it because he's just a whale, he could still hurt other people. It's a dilemma, huh? Should Captain Ahab catch Moby Dick and put his crew in danger, or should he give up and let the dangerous whale roam the ocean? Aiden shrugged. I don't know, he said simply. Kerry chuckled softly. How about you, Patrick? What are you reading again? I finished my other book yesterday. I just started when the tripods came. It's a series. Ah, you'll like that one, she said with a smile. I remember reading that when I was little. It's right up your alley, about alien invaders and such. Patrick grinned. It was the first time she had seen him do that since yesterday evening. God, their dinner last night seemed like it was 3 years ago. I already started, Patrick informed her. I love it. That's good. Why don't you two work on those books while we wait for Kara? Okay, Aiden said a bit reluctantly. Patrick simply complied, not letting the disappointment show on his face. He wanted to talk to his mom and find out what was going on, but she wasn't about to tell him. She was doing everything she could to give him as little opportunities to talk to her about it as possible. They read for a bit before the door creaked open and Kara emerged from outside. Hey, she greeted them cheerfully. Where are you guys? I can't see your faces behind those great books. They put the books away and walked toward her with smiling faces. Kerry stood up and greeted Kara. I can't thank you enough, Kara. Oh, it's no problem, Kara said with a smile. Want to step outside and you can tell me about who gets whose pajamas? Wouldn't want Patrick splitting Aiden's pants, she said with a grin. Her comment got the boys to laugh. Definitely wouldn't want that, Kerry said with a smile. You boys stay here. Get your bags ready to go. They obeyed, and Kerry and Kara exited the lounge. Justin didn't tell me anything, Kara said instantly. I saw it all on the news. God, do you have a lead? Kerry sighed. This was precisely the conversation she didn't want to get into. I'm working on it, was all she said. I know you are, Kara said sympathetically, putting her hand on Kerry's arm. Listen, when you want to come over any time tonight, you can eat whatever's in the pod, and I'll show you the guest room, or Justin will. Are you planning to leave together? That depends on how tired he is and whether I order him to go home, Kerry said, managing a smile. Kara knew Kerry would probably stay until she fell asleep at her lab table. You need the sleep too, she said gently. I'll get some sleep. Trust me, I need to be as awake as possible for the next day or two, Kerry told her. Kara nodded, dropping the subject. Do Patrick and Aiden know anything? They suspect something, but they don't have any details, and I'd appreciate it if your TV stayed off the news sites, at least while they're here. Of course, that goes without saying, Kara said immediately. I'll drive them to the lab tomorrow morning when I go to work. It's on the way, don't even worry about it. Unless you want them to go to school? No, definitely not, Kerry said. I didn't think so, Kara stated. So I can pick them up tomorrow after work too. Have they eaten? I see the remains of pizza in that room, so that would lead to a yes, though you'll have to ask them if they're hungry. Aiden's on a set routine. He won't eat anything now. It's too close to his bedtime. But Patrick sometimes gets up in the middle of the night and grabs a snack. Okay, I'll watch out for that. I won't set the motion detector. Thanks, Kerry said. I'm going to grab a few things from the house. Their pajamas, clothes for tomorrow, stuff like that. Their pillows might make them more comfortable, and their stuffed animals. It's okay if Quigley comes, right? Benny will love the company, Kara said kindly. And we've got more than enough dog food with a golden retriever. Quigley pretty much eats anything anyway. I'd put your remote controls on higher shelves, she said with the traces of a smile. Oh, Benny's already destroyed all of ours. We're thinking of having them velcroed to the walls. It might keep them from finding them. Don't worry about anything, Kerry. I'll take care of the boys. As long as you need. As long as I need isn't really an option. We're kind of working on a deadline. Kara's face fell. Oh, Kerry, she said quietly, and couldn't bring herself to say anything else. Kerry diverted her eyes. She wanted to tell Kara what the deadline was. Her need to organize and plan, however, was completely overrun by her automatic defense mechanism. If she told Kara what the date was, or looked into those sympathetic eyes of her friend, she knew she might cry. So instead of playing into the emotion, she simply said, I have to check in with Justin and the others. You'll take the boys now? Definitely, Kara said. If they fall asleep in their clothes, I just won't change them into their pajamas. Aiden won't sleep without pajamas on, Kerry told her, and he's going to insist on Cheerios tomorrow morning, just so you know. Patrick will eat a granola bar or anything you have in the house. He won't mind sleeping in his clothes either. He loves camping. Kara nodded. I'll see you later, she said, walking back into the lounge. She emerged in only a few seconds with the boys. They hugged Kerry and said goodbye, and then the three left. Kerry turned to her two guards. Officers, did you notice anything unusual? They answered, coincidentally in unison, No, ma'am. Good, Kerry said with a nod. You can go. They departed, and Kerry went to find Justin, Nikki, Greg, and Sarah. They needed to regroup, coordinate, and make sure that they were on the same page before Greg and Sarah left for tonight. Next scene. Message is sent. They'll get it tomorrow morning, he said to his boss. Good. Take care of Lorenz and Carlos before they catch them. I'll have someone on it, he responded. His boss smiled. Not only were they getting their $1 billion, but they were also getting revenge. It was high time someone got rid of the lieutenant. She had an annoying way of interpreting their plans and their lives. Should we kill Connor O'Malley? He asked the boss. Not yet. He'll be perfect bait. They'll all die together anyway. And my share? If you successfully move the shipment and the O'Malleys are dead by tomorrow, then you'll have your 25%. He nodded. But before he could speak, the boss interrupted. If the O'Malleys are not dead, and the shipment isn't moved by midnight tomorrow, however. I understand. She'll know that what we're doing, and that'll be that, he answered. He knew he'd be killed by their mutual superior if they were discovered. Thank you, the boss responded. This was it. The American branch of the Diablo would control the others, and eventually be the most powerful organization in the world. But more importantly, O'Malley would get the death she deserved. We'll read more tomorrow.